Check, check. All right, we look good, we sound good. We'll get started here in a minute. Make sure the video screen loads up. There we go. What happened? All right. That is really weird. Are we good now? Okay, let's get started. Welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. We're going to be talking a lot about the markets today, crypto, and the stock market as well. You can see big weekly buy signal on the S&P 500. Talked about this yesterday in the stock video. Came off this 100-week moving average that held, but now the real test. We have the 50-week moving average as well as the 618 on the stock market. This is a critical level for a couple reasons. One, the 618 a lot of times can be an area where you see lower highs. And the 50-week moving average is considered by many to be sort of the line in the sand between being bearish or bullish. And so if we aren't able to see a weekly candle body close above the 50-week, it's still possible this is a fake out. I know crypto's front running this, but we still have to keep this in mind. We are not out of the woods yet. On the daily, we can see the S&P 500 right at its last resistance. So all the resistances and the 618 is together. So if we break through this, that is very promising. They're all together, but we have the 50, the 200, the 100. Getting above this level, opening and closing, I'd say that 5,700 is very important. We'll take a look at the VIX. Volatility still coming down, which is good. That's promising. Percent of stocks above their 200-day average. We're on the daily right now, but this coming up is promising as well, getting above that 20. And we'll see what happens there at the 50. I mean, even here, we have a weekly buy signal. This could be a good leading indicator. Let's go over to Bitcoin quick. Weekly buy signal. I am worried that, we might still be in one of these situations where we're going to go down for a bit, get a few weeks up, go down. We'll take a look at some other indicators. The MACD, very important one. I'm also wondering if we're going to get a situation kind of like we did here in the summer of 23, where we go up and then we get a double bottom test. So to be clear, I am expecting a little bit of a pullback sometime soon. I could be wrong. In Bitcoin, at least, it's just slowly grinding up, and that tends to be, in my experience, overall good for the market. When we slowly grind up, I don't see pullbacks happen as much. I see it just go up or pop off more often than not. But then maybe if we get to the 786 around 100K, that's where we see a pullback. We have the moving averages coming up to that 0.5 in the 90K range, 86K or double bottom at worst. If we were to get underneath this and not have a double bottom or get lower, then I think all the bearish narratives or recession narratives would come back really quick. So this is an important time right now for crypto. Let's go through a bunch of our other macro indicators. And for CNN, this has been climbing out of extreme fear towards neutrality. So that is promising. We're not out of the woods yet. For crypto fear and greed, let's see what's going on here. Yeah, back up into greed area. We were in neutrality. Overall, I mean, this is the one thing that does worry me a little bit when I think about possibly getting a correction, is that we have these lower highs, okay, on the greed to fear. And so I am worried that this will roll down a little bit. We'll get one more mini flush and then go up. And by the way, as you're watching this, if you have any requests for any altcoins or stocks that you want me to take a look at in the charts, let me know. I think we're still following this sort of chart overall, that when we get these new presidents and we get their new economic policies, it's a new experiment. All this stuff with tariffs going on, a lot of that negative, bad news, I think it gets priced in, but we're kind of getting to that critical time. You can see here, it's typically around 100, 120 days, 3 to 4 months. That's where we're at right now. And should we start moving upwards? Okay, I think we're definitely in a non-recessionary path, and we could still go a bit higher. Get our alt season, get our 4-year cycle, all those sorts of things. But if we start to break down and go lower than that recent low that was made from that 20-some% flush in the stock market, then I'd say we're probably most likely on the recessionary path. So I think we're getting to critical times. Justin, what's up, buddy? Elgarand, I will definitely do Elgarand. So first, let's watch to see if this goes up or down pretty soon. I think we're going to get some key answers within this next month or two. As far as cycles, next year, or the second year of a presidential cycle, typically ends up being the worst one. So just something to keep in your mind. We can still be bullish for 25 and then have a rough 26. This chart I'm going to be showing from here on out because I think it's one of the most important charts to look at, and just something to keep in perspective. We just had a 22% pullback and it came and went really quick. I mean, we could retest it, get a double bottom as I talked about, but that is a twice a decade phenomena. And so if, as I talked about in this chart, if we were to break down further from our recent lows, that would mean the stock market getting under its 200 weekly moving average, because it got close to it. If we were to see that and get somewhere above a 30% correction, that's a once in a decade phenomena. And in my opinion, that gets to the areas that you can't miss for long-term investing. So this is what we've been talking about planning for. Whether that's happening this year or next year remains to be seen, but just keep this in the back of your mind. You don't want to miss those opportunities. I also think as we take a look at the Shiller PE ratio, we see that the markets the last 30 years are very different than historically. We can even just take a look at the general PE ratios as well. But when you go to the last 30 years, I think this shows a better image of what's going on. And maybe with this recent pullback, we're getting up. You can see if we drew in a trend line here, that maybe we're getting to that area where we pop back up into bubble territory. I'll show you what to look for on the S&P here after doing this. But if we compare to 1998, which I think there's a growing amount of similarities to. What's up, Chips and Salsa? Good seeing you, bud. It's been a hot minute. Hope you're doing well. But like 1998, similarities with the rate cuts, the 25% rate cuts. Okay, a lot of similarities. AI bubble, .com bubble. There's a lot of similarities going on. I could still see us rallying to all-time highs. Maybe that would lead to alt season. Those are some things that I am looking for. Going back over to the S&P 500, talked about how I'd show you what 1998 looks like. You can see we just had a bounce off the 100-week moving average. And funny enough, that happened in 1998 as well. So if you guys have been watching my videos for the last half a year, about that time, give or take, I used to show this chart showing the percent of rate cuts. When the Fed is cutting by 25 basis points, usually the market still has a ways to go. When they're cutting by 50, that's when you got to worry. So the Fed recently was cutting by 25 basis points, as they were back here in 1998, and then we continued higher. Let's overlay so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Glad it's on here, the interest rates. Okay, so here the Fed was cutting by 25 basis points. They held. They even raised, cut by 25 basis points. They held. And then they had to start raising rates. This is 1998. But you can see they weren't doing emergency rate cuts or anything. Once at the top, as it started to come down and break down, that's when you're getting the 50 basis point cuts. September 11th, never forget, all that sort of things. When they're cutting by 50 basis points, it tends to be bad. Okay, when they were cutting by a lot, that preceded the mess that included COVID. We had a black swan on top of it. Right now, they cut by 25 basis points. Okay, the first one was 50, but they didn't have a meeting in October, so it was an average of 25 basis point cuts. Again, I think there's a lot of similar economic policies, even with inflation and other data. The only difference I would say this time around is unemployment. If we look at unemployment, that is different overall. Unemployment has been trending up, and that is an indicator to watch for. If unemployment continues to trend up or break above this 50-week moving average, I do think we have to consider the recession being closer than possible. 1998, you can see unemployment was trending down. So that is the one key difference. If we have unemployment just going sideways, I think we're fine. Going back over to crypto, any other things I want to talk about? I'll get to your Algorand TA quick, and then I'll get into some other data as well. There's our fib that we have drawn. Again, it's at the, it was in the golden pocket, and it's now breaking out. So the next area of resistance is 100K, or around 101. Let's take a look at our MACD. The weekly MACD has been one of our best indicators, because last 3 times it flipped positive, we were getting new highs. Even though we had our bottom and then the high came later, let's take a look at the other times the MACD's flipped positive. Right here, you can see it went up big time. That was our biggest move. Right here, the MACD flipped positive. We went from 60K to 102K. Is the MACD going to flip positive, or is it going to do another little negative jump? So the MACD coming up like this, that is very promising. And if we get rid of this fib, let's clean things up a little bit. If we get rid of that fib, let's even turn off the moving averages here so everything looks cleaner. And if we draw a fib, our golden ratio indicator from high to low, this is how we look for price targets now. When you're going past the previous all-time high, this is how we look for price targets. That fib extension, Bitcoin got stuck at the 1618 fib extension. All right, came down a bit. All right, came to the 50-week moving average, which I can show you again once it loads. There we go. Came to the 50-week, just like it did last August. Okay, came to the 50-week. But if we are to break above that 1618, the next area, that 2618, is at 155K. 3618, 210K. Now the top last cycle got between the 3618 and the 4236. You don't have to trust me, bro, on this. I'll show you. The last cycle, it topped at around 69K, if you guys remember. All right, 3618, 4236. The cycle before, I think it's worth repeating this. The cycle before, I forget, it's something like the 12618 or whatever. It doesn't matter. Either way, what this shows is what a rainbow chart tries to show us. And yes, the rainbow chart isn't perfect. I continue to get comments about that. I know that. I agree with you. It isn't perfect. That's not the importance of it, though. The importance of the rainbow chart is that we see this logarithmic regression over time. Okay, the old rainbow chart, I think, even shows a better job of this. And so if we just follow the trend, the old rainbow chart might say something around 180K, right? The new rainbow chart, you can see these tops diminishing. Maybe we get into the orange bands. Those orange bands match up with that 2618 to 3618, 150 to 210K. Okay, we're looking at those orange boxes right there. Going back here, moving over. Oh my God. Let's do this. Let's put on auto and then we'll scroll. The orange bands line up with this area. So I've been talking about this in my recent videos. When do we get alt season? We've got an alt season when Bitcoin is too expensive to buy. Bitcoin becomes too expensive to buy at the top or near the top. I don't think Bitcoin's going to be too expensive to buy until that 155 to 210K range. 155 to 210K range. Somewhere in here, I believe the bottom. So if the MACD flips, do not be surprised if we see Bitcoin make a big jump up towards 155K. Now, there are some other good indicators out there. Good, we have those turned off. This is one of the rainbow chart indicators. It's called logarithmic regression. It's on the weekly. And even the log regression, as this moves, this is green with us. The last two cycle tops, I know there's a lot going on here. Let me delete some of these things. The last two cycle tops got into this log regression band pretty high. That area would match up with our range here. Again, I'm not making a prediction that on December 25th, 2025, Bitcoin will be at 179,480. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying watch for a range, and if the rainbow chart shows us anything, if Bitcoin, a lot of reasons that there are so many TA videos out there is because Bitcoin has built up this confidence in us, this consumer confidence that it will be within sort of this range of logarithmic regressions. That's why there's so many videos of people trying to predict. And to an extent, I'm even trying to predict, but more important than predictions is your strategy and plan. Do you have a strategy that can outweigh, again, we're market psychologists here, do you have a strategy that can outweigh your emotions? When you're getting greedy, when the market's euphoric, are you going to stay in up here and keep waiting and not take a 5X, or are you going to get the hell out? When this comes, I promise you, when we get alt season, and I'm going to say, I will be very honest. I'm always honest with you guys. I will say when I'm selling. And I promise you, this happened the last two cycles. There will be people calling me an idiot, and that's fine. Because retail, they love getting in up here when it's in the news and the market's euphoric. But that'll be the time to sell. Have a strategy now for knowing what to do when Bitcoin gets there. So I think there's a lot that lines up with that. I wanted to show another chart. What was the other chart? Oh yeah, I wanted to overlay Bitcoin dominance. And then I'll quickly go through a couple of your comments. Bitcoin dominance. Remember what I said? Imprint this in your brain. If you can imprint one thing in your brain from my live streams. We don't get alt season, the true alt season, not the slow, grindy alt season. I'm talking about the true alt season. When dominance goes down, we don't get that until Bitcoin tops and is too expensive to buy. We don't get alt season until Bitcoin tops and is too expensive to buy. We have Bitcoin dominance overlaid. What is Bitcoin dominance? That is percent of crypto money that's in Bitcoin. 65% of all crypto money is in Bitcoin. When that drops, look at this big drop. That's when we got alt season. It's when Bitcoin topped. It was too expensive to buy. There was that massive rotation into alts that lasted a few weeks, a month, give or take. Now, this was an initial drop, but when did we have the true alt season drop? As Bitcoin topped. Now, yes, there was another top here. And yes, there were some altcoins that didn't have their true top till here. I would argue that even those altcoins, many of them, if not most of them, already did 80-ish% of their move back here. I am fine selling that. I don't need the other 20%. If Bitcoin dominance drops, I'm getting the hell out. All right. Whether I have a 2x, a 50% gain, a 10x, I don't care. When Bitcoin dominance is dropping, you get the hell out. Now, right now, Bitcoin dominance is still going up because Bitcoin is not too expensive to buy. Bitcoin will be too expensive to buy historically, or at least by the way the trends are going, between 155 and 210K. Sorry for rambling. Let me get to the comments. Elgarand, let me get to Justin's. Justin, thank you so much for being a patient, awesome fellow. Maybe you're not patient. Maybe you're just pissed off I'm talking so much. Either way, I apologize. Elgarand. All right, we had this trend line down here. We did catch, let me see if we have a fib within a fib here. We're going to go from that high to maybe, oh, I have to take my fib. I have to put it back on log because we're looking between prices. There we go. I mean, that's close-ish. I'd say that lines up exactly right there. So from the most recent low to high, okay, we did high to low, yes. It came down to that 236 and it's bounced up. And it almost bounced up perfectly. Actually, it did. To the 0.5 there at 24 cents. And it's coming back down a little. Let's take a look at the daily. So I would say here, you want to see it get above the 618 and 382 here. This is a 32, this is a 618. This whole area here is going to be very important. That 32 to 31 cent area, getting above that will be very good for you. Yeah, and plus it's getting rejected by the 200 and the 100. So if it comes down to the 50-day, if you really like algo and you're looking to DCA, around 21 right now actually isn't the worst. Yes, you can get it a few cents lower. But this macro 236, I mean, you're within a couple cents range of that. My question to you is, if you believe in Algorand, if you have your price targets, I don't think right now is bad as far as a dollar cost average opportunity. We'll take a look at some of those price targets here. Let's go to the weekly. So if Algorand were to make new highs, I mean, you have to do yourself a favor and guess, where you think the market cap would go. Is Algorand within the top 50? Let me just do a quick scroll and then I'll look it up for you if we don't find it quick. I have not. It's been a hot minute. Here we go. It's been a hot minute since I looked at Algorand. So around 2 billion. Let's just say 2 billion, round up. Nice, easy number. If Algorand were to get if it were to get to this 1618, that would be around a 20x, if my math's somewhat correct, somewhere around a 20x, because 22 times 2 is 44, okay? 44 cents times 10 is 440. That'd be around a 20x, okay? If Algorand's going to do a 20x and get to that 1618 fib, then that would mean 20 times 2, $40 billion market cap. I don't think that's totally crazy, the former Gary Gensler coin. But as I've talked about before, altcoins that have done well in prior cycles, even in alt season, you have to watch out for the 786, which is at $1.38, $1.39. Whatever your dollar cost averaging in down here, my plan, not your plan, but what I would do is take my return on initial investments as profits here and play with house money. If it goes higher, cool, take dollar cost average out at different levels. But if it comes back down and gets maybe a shade under the 618, sell and just take what profits you can. That's part of my plan. I think as a long-term investor until it's alt season, then I think as a trader, as far as when to sell, we can throw on the stochastic and the MACD. It's probably going to say, okay, stochastic looking good, getting up out of the oversold area, which is nice. MACD, I'm giving you some extra TA here because I made you wait so long. MACD not yet flipped positive, so it's still, just like Bitcoin, it's still possible we might see one of these double bump deals. Okay, we're not out of the woods yet. If we go to Ultimate RSI, also oversold there as well, but starting to come up. So if you like Algorand, I mean, I don't think this is a bad area to buy. This 19 to 22 cent area, I don't think it's too bad. If you really believe in it and that it can do a 4x at minimum, okay? But if it goes down lower, if the market were to retest, do a double bottom, would you buy Algorand at 11 cents after buying it at 20? Okay, that's got to be part of your strategy too. You have to be okay buying lower if that happens. Chips and salsa, dude, I feel bad. I have so many altcoin TA requests. We'll get through some of those. I see them. We'll talk about some of those anyways. So I won't just be doing it for you, so you don't have to feel bad. I'll do these for myself and everybody. With the right altcoins, they will rise more than Bitcoin even before the alt season. Elias. Yeah, possible with the right altcoins. That's the question. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Really tricky thing with altcoins is the research. Okay, they all promise the moon, and you have to you have to have your convictions. Like I love Link. Fetch as a coin in itself or the fundamentals, but it has AI in the name and people go nuts for that shit. So, Fetch, like, it's worth a gamble in my opinion just for the AI component. That's why I really like miners, is because we actually have some insider knowledge on the assets, the liabilities, and other financials going on underneath the hood. I really like that about Fetch, Bitcoin miners, the mining stocks. The mining stocks act like altcoins. And so we could take a look at cash flow and all those great things and get some better inside intel. So, yeah, any competitive advantage you can look for and get will help you. I will say, full disclosure, like I've gotten better at this, but 2017, when I had my half a dozen alts or whatever, a couple of them ran decently well on the way to the top, but I only had two, Tron and DNT, District OX, that really popped off at the end. Okay, so I'd say 33% success rate. Last cycle, I narrowed it down and I had about a 50% success rate, but getting the right altcoins is tough. It's really tough. Each cycle, I find myself gravitating more towards the higher market cap coins. And I'm not looking for a 20x, a 40x, anything like that. I'm fine with a 5 to a 10x. I've already achieved that in a couple altcoins, Jasmine being one of them. So, some can happen slowly over time, but it's hard. It is hard. Ada, Sweet, Ando, and BTC, dog. Nice. Thank you. Hell yes. All right. Let me do this first. Let's take a quick look at Bitcoin dominance, some alt season charts, and we'll talk about those altcoins, okay? Right now, we're still bullish on Bitcoin dominance. As long as we're bullish on this, I hesitate saying any of these altcoins are a good play, because we get in these times where dominance comes down a little, it maybe tests a 20-week moving average, and then it's a fake out. And then our altcoins go lower. So I'm not saying you can't find good deals in the altcoins. There are some YouTubers, they just talk about Bitcoin dominance, and they say, you know what, Bitcoin does better than all these. I disagree in the fact that these people aren't looking at the altcoins themselves and the TA within the altcoin. And so, overall, like Algo, like Link, some others, I think there's good dollar cost average opportunities there. But right now we're still bullish. Now we are getting massive divergence in these as the price is going up. We're going to call it price. I know it's not price, but we're just going to call it that. We have this bearish divergence, okay? I wonder how it looks if we zoom out. That's just been climbing up overall. And that's just bullish on the monthly. If we go over to the stochastic RSI, we're just taking a look at the strengths here. Very overbought. Okay, very overbought. Last cycle, after it peaked, you can see we got oversold. It needed to do it twice. We haven't even gotten underneath the 50 point. So once Bitcoin dominance really starts to get oversold, it might not be the bottom. Okay, you can see the stochastic, the first time it gets oversold isn't the bottom. Here there was bullish divergence. Here we had the double tested. So, we'll see. But what we are seeing here is that dominance just bullish. We haven't seen a flip of the trend. If we go over to total 3, that's all the crypto market cap outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and we divide it by Bitcoin. Let's go over to the daily. I think that shows us a little better. I do like how this is rounding out, and maybe it tests the 618. Let's go back over to the weekly. Maybe it tests the 618. I could see this being a bottom area. 40% for the market cap outside of Bitcoin and ETH. Others, this helps us just take a look at the macro altcoin conditions. Others dash Bitcoin, we're on log scale, and it all fits within this channel. Yes, it got under, but if we go to the monthly, this is only a wick. It came down to the 3-2. Getting back within this channel means the channel is not invalidated. When we see this ratio go up, that's when we have alt season. In 2017, it happened very fast, within a month. Okay? Last cycle, not so much. It took a while. You could see alts doing a 10x or more over time, and then they truly popped off. All right? So are we going to get a slow grind and pop? Are we going to just get a quick pop? I don't know. No one knows. But this is why, by the way, the last 2 charts, we take a look at ETH, Bitcoin, doesn't matter. The last 2 charts show why people are saying, oh, there is no alt season. They're saying that because the charts are completely flipped. And in the past, these charts haven't unflipped until quantitative easing returned. We can overlay that. Let's see. Is it up here? USC BBS. Let's go out here. Here we go. This is the quantitative tightening, quantitative easing chart. The Fed, this is the United States Central Bank balance sheet. That's what USC BBS is. Quantitative tightening, look at how it matched with the bottom there for alts. When they were getting the quantitative easing, low rates, injecting liquidity, look how perfectly that matches. Right now, quantitative tightening, okay, it's rounding down. Can I throw up this? Yes, I can do this. Sweet. On the monthly, if you guys watch my videos on the monthly, oh, it's not going to show it perfectly. On the monthly, the central bank balance sheets bottoms around the 100-month moving average. It's not going to show it because it's showing the time frame for the others dash Bitcoin. Some of you are probably like, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" Let me show you really quick. All right, you guys can see clearly that alts run with quantitative easing. Okay, let's go to the U.S. central bank balance sheet. Let's add on our moving averages. Let's go to the monthly. This is what I'm talking about. We go to QE last time when we hit the 100-month moving average. We are very close to that. So I am expecting and hoping for, and I mean, even this looks like it looks to be landing on the 100-month moving average. That's when you'll see alts flip against Bitcoin, in my opinion. So keep that in the back of your mind. You guys, no one can ever say that I don't try to give you the best analysis. I look for any bit of good news I can. All right, let's get to some of your requests. Ethereum. Let's take a look at the number 1 altcoin. And what is Ethereum's market cap? Ethereum's market cap, 224 billion. Actually, let's do this first. What is ETH-Bitcoin? Some people look at this primarily as their alt season indicator. I don't. I don't think that's fair because it's just one altcoin and it might do really crappy against Bitcoin till the very end. I like total 3 or others against Bitcoin way more. This thing's still falling like a rock. I'm sure if you put on the U.S. Central Bank balance sheet, it'd be very similar to others dash Bitcoin. I mean, 0.1, 10%. Right now, Ethereum is 12% of Bitcoin's market cap. If you don't know what this 0.12 means, that means Ethereum is 12%. Okay, 224 divided into 1.9 trillion, 224 billion. That is 12%. That's what that means. When it gets up to this 0.5, I'd say 0.4 to 0.5 area, that's when I'm looking for alt season, when it's getting up here. Anyways, let's take a look at Ethereum. I have it right there. I don't need to look it up. All right, so Ethereum, going back here, I think this could be a bottom for Ethereum at 1400. Look at that strong wick off the 100-month moving average. Kind of like Tesla stock. Tesla stock, the last two times it truly bottomed, it had a nice wick off the 100-month moving average. And so, great wick. We were talking about that for a while, that if we got Ethereum under 2K, I'd say that's good long term. Now, I talked about how Bitcoin could go to 155 to 210K. What's interesting about that is the market cap, right? Turn on your math brains for a minute, stick with me. We are talking about Ethereum, I know that. If Bitcoin gets to 155K, do you guys know what its market cap will be? If Bitcoin gets to 155K, all right, so another 50%, what is 50% of 2 trillion? 1 trillion. We add 1 trillion to the 2 trillion. If Bitcoin adds another 50%, gets 155K, it will have around a 3 trillion market cap. Why do I bring this up? Remember that ETH Bitcoin chart I showed you where I'm looking for 0.4 to 0.5? If Bitcoin has a top, let's just say 150K, 3 trillion market cap, and Ethereum is 40 to 50% of that market cap, we're talking about Ethereum at 1.2 to 1.5 trillion market cap. Where would Ethereum be at 1.2 to 1.5 trillion market cap? And by the way, I don't have Ethereum right now. I'm considering buying. I like my other altcoin plays more, maybe famous last words. We're talking about Ethereum get to that 2618 at 11K. That would be alt season for Ethereum, 11K. So again, ETH Bitcoin. This is if Ethereum does well against Bitcoin. No guarantees. But if Bitcoin gets 155K, if Ethereum Bitcoin gets back to its peak around 0.4 to 0.5, this is where it's going to be at 1.2 to 1.5 trillion, that 2618 fib. This is why it's good to know your math and line up the data. That's what we're hoping for. I'm not saying it's going to get there. XRP last cycle didn't get back to anything, but at 786. So we don't know if Ethereum is going to get up there, or maybe it's only going to go to its 786. Well, it already did that this cycle, 786, 888. So just saying, if you like Ethereum, regardless, I think this is a really good area to buy under 2K. So hope you enjoyed that Ethereum technical analysis. Let's take a look at some other ones. Doge, AVAX. Yeah, you're already talking about ones I wanted to do anyway, so don't worry. Chips and salsa requesting everything. Don't worry. I think these are all important ones to talk about. Doge, I really like this level at 14 cents. We were talking about that for a while. Off the 200-week moving average. Now, what do you believe in Doge? For a while, I was talking about how Doge doing well last cycle. A lot of ties to Elon Musk, all this and that. How well could it do this cycle? I was talking about the 786 around 41 cents being a key area to watch out for. Can Doge get up to even its 1618? I mean, I have to say this out loud. I mean, crypto is so stupid that, Doge was almost worth, 90, 100 billion last cycle. The 1618 is at, let's just say, $1.20. Okay? So we're talking about a 5-6x from here. Can Doge 5 or 6x its market cap of, let's round down, let's say 25 billion, right? Can Doge get to 100, 125, let's say 100 to 150 billion dollar market cap? Do you believe Doge is worth 100 to 150 billion dollars, which is as much, if not more, than other actual good quality stocks out there? That's how stupid crypto is. I say this out loud and I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. Now, I was accumulating some Doge down here. It's not even in one of my top 5 bags this time around. So I'm in profit on Doge right now, around a 2x. I think it can get higher than its 786, but that was a good area to take some profits at the 786 there. But yeah, I struggle with the price targets for Doge. Now it's crypto. Stupid things happen all the time. And crypto is a good, humble place. Anytime you make fun of an altcoin, like a lot of people are making fun of Ethereum, they're going to be eating their words really soon. I remember when Ethereum was $200 and then it got to 5K. Ethereum getting to 11K, that'll blow a lot of people's minds too. So Doge, I think you're still within the range of, I mean, we probably just had a buy signal, a confirmation indicator. Yeah, we did. We're still within the range of our weekly buy signal candle. And so if you love Doge, you have that confirmation. And as I talked about before, you don't need to eat the whole sandwich. When I look at these indicators, and by the way, this matches up with like one of our RSIs, I think the stochastic. We're not looking to eat the whole sandwich. We're looking to eat everything in the middle of the bread. You can eat 80% of a profit sandwich and not eat the bread, and that's okay. Because it is very hard to get the exact bottoms. Now, maybe you set a buy order and got this fib or the moving average, and if you did, great. That is very hard for most people to do, and it's okay to have 5-10% less profits. If you believe in Doge, you're within the range of the buy signal, so not a bad time to DCA there. Magic Mather, Doge, and a bouquet of flowers, I think that is. What's up, Mather? Hope you're doing well, dude. Good seeing all your lovely faces in here. All right, SEI. SEI. We haven't talked about this one in a hot minute. All right, and this is probably why. So you don't like seeing that. From its March 24 top, it has made a newer low. That is concerning. That is concerning. So I think we have to sort of redo these fibs here. I'm not going to do this initial weekly candle. I'm just going to go from this low to the high and see, make sure our fib is on log scale. Yeah, I mean, it rested at 786, getting a bounce. You know, it's still kind of within range of its buy signal, but right now, I don't know if you see it. I definitely see it. It is within a channel. There's no doubt about that. It is within a channel here. Ooh, almost perfect. So that's why I came down to that level. So, you know, is it going to break out of this channel? That remains to be seen, but we did get a buy signal at the lowest price you ever were able to get a buy signal outside of the very first time. So you're still within range of the buy signal. Now, you play two ways. You can hope it gets to the upper end of the channel. You know, here it'd be about a 2x if you believe it can get there. I mean, anything can happen. It could test here, come down. But if you believe in SEI, you know, you're not too far off the range of that buy signal. You would want to break out of this channel at around 52 cents. And then even, you know, if we're just going high to low here, you'd want, so that 382 at 30 cents and that 50-week moving average, the dividing line between bearishness and bullishness, that's going to be a key area around 30 cents. That's a lot of resistance there. You want to get above that. We're not going to use all the other indicators. I think this one's pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at Ondo. Ondo is one, I'm not going to lie, I bought a little bit of Ondo. This one, I think, don't buy it, by the way, all because I did. This one, I think, has some possible promise. So it's sort of similar to what we just talked about with SEI. You see the weekly buy signal here. Cool, let's go over to the daily. Daily, nice support and bounce off the 382. However, all that moving average resistance, the golden pocket, the 618 to the 65, right in line with the 200, the 100, the upper area of the channel. Holy shit, that's a lot of resistance. So I'm not surprised to see it come back down. But if we break out of that channel and all that moving average resistance, turn it into support at around $1, Ondo can fly. I truly believe. Yeah, I mean, you're not at the very bottom. We're a little bit higher than what you could have got down here at 80 cents. You know, we're 10 cents higher, but it is having a move down. It is resting at the 50-day moving average. You know, so you're not buying it in a total premium. You know, how much do you like Ondo? My one concern with getting any altcoin right now is just Bitcoin and the S&P. especially the S&P, it's come up to its 618 and these moving averages. It might break through, but usually we see somewhat of a pullback, even if it's a minor one. And that's when I want to catch some of these prices. So as far as Ondo, I mean, there are things I like about it. Not saying you have to like it, but I could also see, I mean, does this not somewhat look like an inverted head and shoulders maybe? Sort of, kind of. It kind of does look like an inverted head and shoulders. I think if that were to play out, we could see it spike up to $1.17 and then come back down. So I don't hate Ondo here. It's not, max discount territory, but I also don't think it's a bad area overall. It'd be like going to Kohl's. You want that one shirt that they always mark up before putting on a discount at 70% off. And instead of 70% off, it's 50 to 60% off. That's sort of how I see Ondo. Right? We talked about Bitcoin. Dude, 10K or higher for ETH would change my life. I hope so. Chips and salsa, all you guys, even the XRP people who kind of hate me, I want everyone to make money. Okay. Even some altcoins I make fun of, I still want people to do well. ETH is having issues internally, direction-wise. Their fast-paced changes have been contested for a while. They're doing some changes, but it'll take a while to show up. Elias Jr., I hear you. I've also heard this same sort of stuff last cycle. Okay, I heard the same sort of stuff last cycle, especially in here. All the bad news was in here about crypto, especially in here. People are like, oh, let's just make a lower highs, crypto set. I remember all that bad news. So I hear you. I also think, this will be the max amount of Ethereum FUD. Right now, I'll say it. People have said this, and I think this is 100% true. If Ethereum was not the number 2 altcoin, let's say it was number 400 altcoin, it just was invented today, would people buy it, and would it become the number 2 altcoin? I think we can all agree, even the most Ethereum maxi person would agree that no, it would not turn into the number 2 altcoin if it didn't exist. However, that means something. Ethereum is established. I can name you a number of stocks that do not have the best product or the second best product, but they are one of the top stocks in their sector. So being established means something, even though it's stupid. And I agree with some of those things you say. I also think we have to sometimes take that FUD narrative out a little bit and, just ask ourselves, is Ethereum going to run again? It's the number 2 altcoin. It's very low right now. As market psychologists, what are we trying to do? We're trying to buy where there's fear, buy where there's FUD. Do not follow the crowd. If you follow the crowd, you're going to be buying tops, selling bottoms. So you want to think like a contrarian, okay? And Ethereum, going back to Ethereum here, there's a lot of buyers at that 100-month moving average. A lot of buyers. Look at that nice wick. It wicked down and people were like, yoink, I'm taking that. So even the biggest Ethereum haters were buying this up. And I think that is worth something. I wish I bought SEI at the bottom dip, but right now it's in a weird spot in terms of risk reward. I agree with you. Makes sense, especially with ETH being down massively. Yeah. I think we're on the same page. Love the conversations we're all having. Let's go to some altcoins I like. I like Link. I like Lamp. I like Turtles. Link, what do we got going on here? So we got to get off this monthly. Ugh. But, is Link going to get a monthly buy signal? Tends to be pretty good when we do. I was buying Link down here. I remember I don't remember who wrote it, but I remember this one tweet where a person said, you will never get Link at $6 again. And I was buying Link and I was like, I sure hope so. And gosh, this just smacks us in the face. Accumulation. And then boom. So I am big on Link long term. This is one of those altcoins. I've done my research. Please do your own research. Do not listen to me. I think it has a lot of actual use case. which I don't believe to be true for 99% of the cryptos out there. I think this one actually does some shit and will be around a while. So even if you don't sell the very top and you get left holding bags for the next cycle, I think Link can still overall perform well. Had a recent buy signal, and it is still within the range of that candle. Might be encountering a little resistance. And are you getting it down here at 13? No. In a couple bucks higher. But Link I'm very, very big on. It has a market cap of, let's just say 10 billion. Let's round up. 10 billion, 15 bucks. So if it did a 10x, we're talking 150. Does 150 bucks line up with any of our fib targets? You guys can do this analysis too. And I want my analysis to be understood and replicable. If you can't replicate analysis, then I don't think you should take anything I say seriously. When people talk about Elliott wave theory, I can't replicate that. So it's just one data point for me. If you can't do analysis that people understand and can replicate, I don't think it means anything. 150 bucks is right in here. So if Link, if it gets above that 2618, I'm selling. But again, we have to be adjustable. If Bitcoin dominance is tanking to the low 40% and Link's only here, you have to be willing to be flexible and look for conditions to meet your plan. So I like Link. Chips and salsa. Link is very strong. Hell yeah. I agree. Let's also take a look at, let's turn off these guys. I'm sure it'll look very similar to Bitcoin. MACD and stochastic, they go very well together. So stochastic getting up in there, that's good. MACD almost there. Guys, I gotta say it, and not a lot of people want to say it right now. I've been on Twitter, X. Everyone's mega bullish right now. I'm still feeling like a contrarian, and I don't want to, but with where the S&P 500 is and where the weekly MACD is, like it's almost flipping up. And if it does, it's great, but I am worried about like a secondary bump. I'm just worried about being trapped a little bit. Like the S&P will come up here to 618, come back down a little. Maybe it'll come back down here. We'll get that double bottom and the recession talks will come back and then boom, we take off. So I'm still thinking about that. Okay, here's a 100-week moving average. It feels like an area to me where like there's so much good news coming back and then pull the rug, get back down to the 100-week moving average. Let's say 5,300. I think 5,300, and then we take off. Going back over to 1998. I'm going to keep talking about this 1998 comparison. Going back over to 1998. You see this double bottom we had here off the 100-week moving average? Okay. The MACD was not flipped up yet. And we go all the way over to today. I see similarities in policy. I see similarities in charts. And the MACD is still kind of far away. So I don't know. I hate to be the contrarian, but I could still see a little bit of a sell-off coming soon. 5,300, Bitcoin coming down a little bit. Bitcoin's looking very good right now. It's front-running the S&P, and so people are probably starting to chase. People are chasing the more risky stuff right now, which is good. I think that's good because it tells us that people still have money to spend and we're still risk on a little bit. The S&P's got to retake that 50-week moving average, though. Once it does, we can resume all the bullish talk. Elias, impressive chart for sure. Read that. Chips and salsa. How do you feel about summer seasonality typically being flat or down? You think this year might be different since the cycle is kind of out of whack with the new year months being down? I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, I talked about this in one of the videos this week. So yes, we see the summer. Look at the summer seasonality. Can you guys see all that? June, 6% on average. July, 7%. August, September always sucks. Okay, seasonality-wise, I mean, we could take a look left to right. The summer is the worst stretch. Okay, you guys can see that. Outside of, January and March, right? You guys can plainly see that. The summer sucks overall. However, let's rewind and let's go back to 2017 and 2020. Let's take a look at those 2 years, the years that led up to alt season. Okay? Alt season was in here, April to the very beginning of May of 21. This was alt season. Let's take a look at returns going back. January, February, March, very bullish. Okay? Quarter 4, as almost always, very bullish. This last year, we didn't get the Santa Claus rally. Instead of up December, it was down December. Santa Claus stayed home. Even the summer, though, let's take a look at this. Starting from April, the 1 year leading up to alt season, I mean, yes, it wasn't fantastic. We were 7% down, 3% down, 2% up. Okay, that's kind of nothing. But overall, like, I would take this summer over anything. Okay, that was the 1 year leading up to alt season. We only have 2 data points. Let's go to 2017 or even 2016. We can even stretch this out. We can go to the year and a half leading up to alt season, because alt season was December 2017 to the first week of January. After January 8th, we fell off a cliff. Okay, so that's why we're here. But we can go a year and a half. Look at this summer. 17% up, 27, down 7%, 2 months in a row. So, it sucks, but also not the worst, if you ask me. Up 5%. Okay, kind of boring in here after this big move. And then up and up. Big pop. A little bit of nothing. Big pop. Down a little. Okay. Taxes and all that. And then we get the returns and up. May. Holy crap. Up and up and up. Down a little. And then boom, we get into alt season here. So here's what I'm trying to say, chips and salsa. Typically, yes, summers suck. However, if we are within a year of the top, I think we might see something different. All right? And maybe it's going to take a year. Maybe alt season is Q1 of next year. I don't know. Maybe it's 3 years away. I have no idea. One of the data points that might line up, I mean, people talk about the 4-year cycle. When we take the average amount of time from every halving to the next peak, that puts us out in August. So can the summer be good? I think seasonality and having an almanac perspective, like, there's value in it, but we have to be cautious of that, because when does it not play out? It plays out when we're getting ready for alt season. When the summer is okay or pretty decent, it's because we're gearing up for alt season. And if the tariff situation gets solved and the stock market resumes bullishness, I can see summer being very good. I really can. So, 2018, we had the tariff situation back here. It sucked. COVID, we had all that. That sucked. March was the bottom, though. And then, boom, we went up for a while. So, yeah, things are a little different, but I don't think I have a completely solid answer outside of, if alt season is coming within the next year, I think summer can still be fine. Cool, yeah, excited to see how it plays out. The cycle has definitely been really tough. I think part of the reason for that, by the way, this cycle has been tough, but there's 2 factors we have to keep in mind. This rainbow chart, let's not take a look at the numbers per se, but what does the rainbow chart show overall? And by the way, this logarithmic regression chart, log scale factor 10, regresses over time. What that shows is that we get decreased insane volatility over time. We're supposed to flatten out over time. Yes, we'll get these big pops up and down, but this chart kind of showcases my point. 2017, 2016, look at the pullbacks, how crazy they were. Can you imagine if we were having 40% pullbacks every 3 months, how wrecked people would be? That was 2016, 2017. I loved it. That was a great time to make money. Here, it doesn't show because it's only showing an uptrend. There was like half a dozen 30% pullbacks, 40% pullbacks, 30% pullbacks, 20% pullbacks, a couple 30%. What's that showing overall, though? It's showing decreased volatility, okay? However, it's going to be more boring, sideways, and choppy each cycle. It's not going to be as crazy. You're not going to get as crazy of pops up and down, or I should say down then up, pops down and up. Each cycle gets a little bit less crazy, and just going over to the S&P, we all knew this year would be volatile. We knew that for a couple of reasons, because from 22, 23, the S&P went up in a historic, insane amount. 70% within 2 years? That's crazy. The S&P going up 70% in 2 years. You've probably seen that quote. Warren Buffett says, if you beat the S&P, I'll give you $1 million, or beating the S&P is hard because the average S&P return is 10%. We went up 40%, or let's just say 35%. So we went up 3 times the normal amount 2 years in a row. We all knew 2025 was going to be volatile, especially with the elections, and that's what we're getting. We're getting volatility. So you can see 22 to 24, look at that low volatility. Okay, look at that trend down, staying under the moving averages. Now the opposite has happened. The VIX has flipped. Okay, when have we seen this before? Let's go back to the dot-com bubble. Look how volatile it was between 98 and the top. The top was somewhere here in 2000, okay? But we were still very volatile on the way to the top. It was still extremely volatile getting over there. Let's take off the moving averages. Let's add on the VIX to this, and I'll show you my point here. We knew volatility was coming back. Does it let me do it? Here we go. Okay, look at that crazy volatility. So you can see it coming up here. Even on the way to the top, it was very volatile. We were still getting volatility spiking up. Let's go back to the VIX here. Get rid of that. Even on the way to the top, we were seeing volatility spikes getting in the 30s, okay? I mean, usually when we get those VIX spikes, things are bad. Staying up in the high mid-20s, that's very volatile. I believe that's another reason I believe we could be seeing a euphoric bubble come soon. And it's going to shake out a lot of people if we are in a 98 scenario. It'll shake out a lot of people. Warren Buffett, he already sold back here. He sold everything back here. He's fine sitting this out. He doesn't care, okay? Because ultimately, he believes we're going to go down further again, which I could see happening as well. So keep that in mind. All right, let's go to some Bitcoin miners. Mara, Riot. I had someone ask in one of the comments, do I believe Riot can get back up to double digits? Or he said, when will it get up to double digits? Do you know if it's going to? Guys, I know nothing. No one knows. Okay? There's probabilities, but not certainties. I think it's very probable, but no one can be certain. So please, 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 do not take anything, do not base any of your financial decisions off what a random YouTuber is saying. I can tell you, I have many years experience investing in crypto and a master's in psychology that has helped me as an investor with fear and greed, with market bottoms and tops, okay, being a contrarian. I can tell you that. You don't have to believe me. Now, that is true, what I told you, but it doesn't matter at the same time. You need to have your own plan, okay? Take everything I say with a grain of salt. So Mara, okay, we have that important trend line here. It's still within the range of, let's turn on, I feel naked without our moving averages and buy-sell signals. We're still just out of the range. So again, not a total discount, but still within a good range. I do like Mara down in this area. This one I'm big on. And I've shown you the balance sheet. I like how miners, you can see their assets to liabilities ratio. Mara is the best looking balance sheet. Okay. Insane asset to liability ratio. Outside of MicroStrategy, which I'm glad I said that, we need to take a look at MSTR. Mara owns the most amount of Bitcoin outside of MicroStrategy, I believe. You double check me on that. But yeah, I do like Mara long term. If it hits this trend line from these last two tops, we're talking about Mara getting to 140, 150. That's still a 10x from here, if it gets up there. Remember, no certainties, probabilities. I do think it's possible. That's 1618 at 132. I'd be very happy selling there. I would be very happy selling there. I don't need another 7% gain. All right. So Mara, I do like. Let's go to Riot. Do I know if Riot's getting back into double digits? I mean, look at that bounce off the 236 fib. Almost got to the lower end of the channel. Massive doji, and then boom, we are in a buy signal right now. So it's a big candle. Mara's no longer in the $7-6 range, and I was talking about, Riot. I was saying if you get Riot in the $7-6 range, in my opinion, it's too good to pass up. We were just there, and the market agrees. 3 billion market cap. Keep in mind, last cycle, the top miners got between 20 to 30 billion. If each cycle continues to go up a little higher, we're talking 30 to 60 billion. I know that's a big range, but that could be a 10x for Riot. And I think that lines up with trend lines. Okay, we have this double top just like Mara. Okay, the trend lines going up here towards 140, 150, 180. We're talking more than a 10x. We're talking a possible 20x for Riot, if you can believe that. But I do see big return potential for Riot. Not saying it will happen, but you're asking me, will Riot get back to double digits? I think it will. It has a lot of resistance here at the 382 and all these moving averages, the 50, the 100, the 200. A lot of resisting. Chips and salsa. Too late, just bought Mara. God damn it. Chips and salsa. Do not listen to me. You're doing this all for yourself, okay? I'm just sharing what I'm seeing and my 2 cents. But I don't want to be tied to any of these because, as I've been saying, if the market does have a little correction, we're going to see a retest of these areas, if not lower. If you are buying right here, and then the market turns around and dumps, and we get that double bottom I'm talking about, you have to be okay buying lower when fear returns. So, just want to be clear. Elias said something. Elias, I got roasted on Palantir going down in 22 by 96. Yeah, Elias, I was buying some Palantir before it bottomed as well, but now I think we're feeling pretty good about it. I even used margin. After the 85% drop, having a lot of convictions. SPY fell like 20% or something, and small caps got destroyed. Yeah, to be clear, I spot buy. I spot buy and hold, and I don't use leverage. I know myself, so I work in the field of psychology. I help clients, with a range of things: abuse, trauma, relationships, all that's grief, whatever. All that emotional stuff gets in the way of being a good investor or trader. And I know my mind can be emotional in those times. And so I have a strategy and a strict budget that takes all that out of the equation. No matter what, I stick to my strategy. Anytime I've gotten ruined, or not ruined, that's a little dramatic of a word, but anytime I've eaten a loss, it's typically because I did an emotional buy. When I stick to my strategy, it is very solid and has worked out very well. So do not let emotion get in the way at all, and have your strategy built up to factor in your emotions. And I think that's to protect ourselves against ourselves. Smart money takes emotion completely out of the equation. They're going by algorithms and numbers. We have to think like that too. And we want things to happen, but again, we have to have our strategy factor that out a little bit. Young and dumb me. Hey, we all make mistakes. Those mistakes, though, I will say over time, if you learn from them and you factor in what you learned into your strategy, you will make money over time. All right? It's no different than spending money on a college course. You learn something important and valuable. Let's have a growth mindset here. Now you learned a way to protect yourself in the future. Okay? So I don't want you to beat yourself up too much. You can still use that knowledge moving forward. Let's go to PLTR, by the way. This to me is like the stock to watch. There are a couple key charts to watch. I think Palantir and gold are a couple of those where you have to watch them. And Palantir to me is like the most tech risk asset there is, showing us where is the market right now. Palantir, you look at it, I'd say we're still risk on. And that's why I don't believe in the whole recession being an imminent thing. Could be famous last words. I could be wrong. But if Palantir is still looking like it has not yet gone euphoric, and maybe it'll trigger a pi cycle top indicator, I don't know. But if Palantir is getting up here in the high 100s, I'm selling that crap. And yes, I bought Palantir. Elias, if you want to feel better, I bought Palantir here, but then when it went down, yeah, that sucked. I bought it here. I bought some here, okay, and then a couple more times. So I got a bunch of Palantir, an average under 15 bucks. I'd even say under 20 bucks because I believe I bought in here too when we regained the moving averages. So my Palantir bags I've been getting between 6 to 20 bucks. I'm feeling really good about that right now. I still think this has room to run. Hopefully this is not turning into a double top though. That would suck. I have to, speaking of gold, we need to talk about gold really quick. Gold has been on a tear. Everyone's talking about gold, buying gold. Could it go up higher? Sure, but I think now's the time to watch out because gold, when it starts to come down, has been when Bitcoin does well. All right, so let's turn off these buy-sell signals. We're obviously detached from the moving averages. When gold has gone down, that is when we start getting bullish for Bitcoin. Okay, so there's a lot of uncertainty. People are worried. Gold is kind of like Tether in a way. People want to retain their purchasing power to an extent. And they're worried about de-dollarization, all that. I think a lot of the news is getting overblown. If you watch, and I hate all mainstream media, but if you watch conservative economic news or liberal economic news, two totally different things. And so, yeah, I think they're both blowing things out of proportion. But even still, gold is overbought. It's plain to see. Gold is overbought. RSI, holy crap, is it overbought? What does it look like on the monthly? Yeah, this thing's very overbought. We don't have divergence. It's just bullish. So maybe gold can get up further. Let's even say 4K, all right? Let's say 4K. However, let's add on our Bitcoin chart. Let's add on Bitcoin. And what do we see? After gold has a local top, okay, you can call any of these local tops. Now, I don't think this correlation is totally cut and dry, but it is one that a lot of people talk about, so let's talk about it. When gold and Bitcoin start to move in opposite directions, that has signaled tops in the past. Okay, last cycle, after gold peaked and moved down, we had a rotation into risk on. Gold going up is sort of risk off. I want to keep my money safe because I'm worried about the dollar. I'm worried about inflation, the U.S. losing its power, all that stuff, insert whatever narrative you will. But all of a sudden people are like, maybe we're overreacting. I'll be more risk on, get into more risky tech assets. That's why I don't agree with Bitcoin being called digital gold. It's not there yet. Bitcoin acts as a risky tech asset. It is not digital gold yet. I'm not saying it can't be. I'm just telling you what the charts show me. If it was digital gold, it would have a different chart. So as we get more risk on, Bitcoin goes up. Gold and Bitcoin have been going up together, kind of as they have in the past. Okay, they go down together, they move up together, but then once gold starts going down and we start getting more risk on, okay, risk off, everything goes down together. And then here, okay, everything's going up together. So I'm still waiting. I mean, even look at this. Look at how gold went down and Bitcoin had that spike. So if gold is topping soon, yes, I can see that rotation in the Bitcoin and Bitcoin going 150 to 200K. So people talk about the gold chart. I think there is some correlation. I don't think it's totally like in your face strong correlation, but it is there. All right, let's take a look at a couple more minor stocks, a couple more altcoins. We have to take a look at Bonk. Don't let me forget. Let's take a look at CleanSpark and Iron Wolf, and Cypher. We'll go through this really quick. Clean Spark. Clean Spark had a nice bounce off its channel. Let's add on our moving averages all the way underneath those moving averages. Does it have a monthly moving average? Yeah, still underneath those quite a bit. So Clean Spark, I mean, nice bounce off the channel. Right now it's fighting the 20. So we have seen assets have a little bit of a strong move here. I don't mind Clean Spark overall. Long term at $9. $9 or lower, I don't mind that. I like it more at $7 range. Right now, again, it's the difference between getting that shirt at Kohl's, whether 70% off or 50% off. If you're still fine getting it 50% off, cool. All right, Iron. Let's take a look at this one. Iron, nice bounce off the 50, or sorry, the 0.5. If you like Iron, I think you're still within the range of that buy signal. And then let's take a look at Wolf and then Cypher. And then we'll go over to Bonk and some other things. So Wolf, in this ascending channel, you want to call it a bear flag, fine. But Wolf, right off that channel is a good time to buy in that mid-low $2 range. And we're still within the range. Probably has a buy signal now, if I had to guess. Yes, it does. So, hey, we have a buy signal at a value we have not been at since last year in June. So I do think because it's an ascending channel, it is possible we can still break out, come back down to the mid $1 range. If it does, I am buying a lot of Wolf down here. Just being honest with you guys. Cypher came down. It held down to that 0.5 buy signal. It's moving up. A lot of things moving up very strong. And with the strength of this move within the last week or two, I think this is why you're seeing so much greed return and bullishness. People are worried they're going to miss out on this move. Okay. And the market knows how to tease us, knows how to manipulate us. So stick to your plan. All right. Let's go over to Bonk. Bonk, MicroStrategy. I had a couple of requests in the comments this week. All right. Bonk. What is going on here? Bonk. Let's go to those recent lows. Man, I mean, look how big this guy swings. So where do I have this top drawn? I think I had it drawn from that top. If we go high to low, from the recent high to lows, well, it's running into resistance at the 50-week moving average. If you got Bonk right as we had a buy signal, good on you. Right now, I don't love it. It is a meme coin. Unless you're being strict and following your plan, I think I would be careful here. If it comes back down to the 236 at around 4014, I'd feel better about it. But if do the bottoms match up? No, we did get lower here. But even if we do, I mean, everything's going to look very similar but inversed. If we do low to high, I mean, you even see the candle body running into the 618 as well. So, this is an important area for Bonk. But if it gets rejected, comes back down within this range of the 4 zeros and an 11 or the 4 zeros, 1 4, I don't hate it down there or for Bonk. Someone also requested Pengu. I know I've heard of it. I don't know if I've charted it. Yeah, Pengu. Is this our best Pengu? Oh, pudgy penguins. The hell? Someone's buying pudgy penguins. Every time you think crypto couldn't be any dumber, it does something like this and totally redeems itself. How do you expect me to give analysis on this shit? All right, Pengu, pudgy penguins. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to laugh right now. So Pengu hitting resistance off this 100-day moving average. All right, get it together. We have the high to low here. Also got rejected off that 0.5. I don't know if I'm buying pudgy penguins here. Yeah. We don't have a lot of consumer confidence. I mean, this thing's half a year old. So I stay away from altcoins in general, and and IPOs that are underneath 2 years old, especially 1 year old, because we don't know. This thing could totally turn into a falling knife. I've seen this the last 2 cycles with so many altcoins. And if I say that, people are going to get pissed. I don't care. I've seen this happen way too much. And I see that happen more often than not, like 9 times out of 10. Okay, my personal experience. I don't know what the true data is. But when I see altcoins that are brand new like this, I would not be surprised to see it go lower. And especially after this big move, I wouldn't be touching it. Now, if you've done research on pudgy penguins and you like the research that you found out and you believe Pengu can do 100x, I think this is nothing better than an educated gamble, but even the technical analysis doesn't show that. How do you see ACH? Alchemy Pay. What target do you see? Thank you for your comment, Adina. Hope you're having a good day. ACH. We've looked at this in the past. Let's get to the weekly intervals for ACH. So man, look at this. We do see sort of a channel here, do we not? Let's match up these bottoms. I'll clean up the channel a little bit, don't you worry. Yeah, I mean, this is a solid channel for ACH. We could try to make it as perfect as possible, line up those highs and lows. Let's move that up just a little bit. Perfect. How do I see ACH? Well, it is in this channel. It's just been ranging. So right now, we're kind of in the middle-ish part of that channel, which should be right here at around 32 cents. What is nice about ACH on the weekly, you have turned the 50 and the 100-week moving average into support. This candle body, by the way, or this candle is still within the range of this buy signal candle, the weekly that we had back here. Buy signal here, buy signal here. You are within the range of the last couple buy signal candles. So if you love ACH's long-term potential, cool. Let's take a look at ACH's market cap. I forget what number crypto it is, so we're just going to look it up. ACH. Where is ACH? Nope. It's not Ask Null. What the? Why did it do that? ACH. Alchemy Pay. Here we go. Number 173 crypto. 200, let's say 250 million market cap, okay? A 4x would be a billion. A 40x would be 10 billion. You have to answer this question for yourself. What market cap do you see ACH getting to? Now, the lower the market cap coin, the higher the potential, or not the higher potential. If you get in on a good altcoin that's low market cap, then you could possibly get a higher multiple of return. I'm not looking for a 40x from Link. I'm not looking for a 40x from Doge. If ACH is one of those altcoins that gets chosen, that could be a 40x altcoin. Not saying it's going to be, but ask yourself a question. What market cap could ACH get to? And don't just make up any number for whatever reason because you like it. Where you say, sure, 10 billion, why not? 10 billion, nice round number. Okay, that makes no sense. Why do you see it getting to a certain market cap? You have to answer that question for yourself. Now, as far as price targets, I mean, here are some of the Fibs price targets. If we get above the all-time high, okay, and a 10x would be around the 2618 at 24 cents, okay. 20x would be, I don't know, at the 4618 if we added that on here. Let's add on the 4618. Let's see what it says. 4.618. And let's turn the background down. Where's the 4618? Okay, so it's almost at the 20x area. I would add on the 4618, go up from there. And, what are you looking for out of ACH2? Are you looking for a 5x, a 3x, a 10x, a 40x? Are you looking to hold on to it until we get alt season? These are questions you have to answer for yourself. I can give you any number or price target, and you can be like, okay, cool, I'll wait for that number. you need, you need to make your own strategy right now. If you're buying ACH right now, and I don't think it's a horrible area to buy, even though I could see it coming lower in the short term. What is your goal? And I'm speaking rhetorically too. ACH is a big community. Great. A lot of these altcoins are big communities. What what is the what do the technicals within the altcoin look like as far as the supply? How much is locked? Its liquidity. You need to research these other factors outside of just the good news about it. Okay, so I'm telling you, basically what I'm telling you is take a look at the actual data and have a plan. Remove emotion. Okay, take a look at it from the numbers. This is how I'm externally processing to you right now and saying out loud the questions I ask myself when I'm buying into an altcoin like an ACH or whatever. What is my reason for buying it, and what is a fair conservative return? Because if my price target is not a conservative target, it's probably not going to happen. I'd rather shoot for a 10x and get that 10x than shoot for a 20x and see it almost get there and then crash. When altcoins crash, they'll go up to an 18x and then come back down to a 2x within a month. So I rather hit a conservative number for altcoins and be happy with that, and then forget about it, quit looking at it. If you keep looking at it, you're going to buy back in at a premium and then not get the return you want. So with an altcoin like ACH, I'm saying all this because I want you to be disciplined and to have realistic expectations. Okay? I don't know what your expectations are, but I would recommend to you to be able to answer that question for yourself and do your research and find that out. So thank you for the comment. And by the way, I hope you don't take any of that as condescending. I didn't mean any of that condescendingly, but these are questions I ask myself, and I'm just posing them to you because I don't want to come off ever telling any of you guys what to do. But these are, I think, important things to think about. Flow still, Doge. We talked about Doge, flow still earlier in the video, but I'll go back to it really quick. It recently had a buy signal. We're still within the buy signal. I really like the 14-cent area. If we do get a little bit of a pullback, I would not be surprised to see Doge get back into the 14-cent area. But this one, again, with market cap, what is your expectation? I think profit taking here at the 786 at 41 cents, a great area to look for. But if Doge is getting to its 1618 to $1.20 or whatever, Doge would have between 100 and 150 billion dollar market cap. How realistic is that? What are you looking for from Doge? Those are some things I think you have to consider. Bonkfather checking in. Nice. Yeah, we talked about Bonk and Pengu Van the Man. So, yeah. By the way, thank you for the laugh, Van the Man, about Pengu, pudgy penguins. That is one of the funniest freaking things I've ever seen. I'm going to pull this up again just because it's so hilarious. Pudgy penguins. There's a freaking crypto for pudgy penguins. And it's charted. All right. I would not be touching this. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong and it goes 100x from here. I'm not touching it. All right. Really great live stream. Thank you. Thank you, Chips. It's also for being here. You're a really great contributor. I appreciate you guys. Did you peek at RSR yet? Newly added to Coinbase. Unsure about it. Yes. Let's peek at RSR. Yeah, some of the new Coinbase ads, you do want to watch them. All right, RSR. Sounds familiar. It could have been one that I scrolled past and didn't really reserve rights. 500 number 111 altcoin, half a billion market cap. Okay. So just outside the 100. All right. Came out, the chart started here in August of 2020, ran up to alt season in April 21, got to a high of 12 cents. And now, I mean this for perspective, if you like RSR, it is down 92% of where it was. It got down 99%, but all things considered, that's not bad either. Got rejected off this 200 week moving average, and I see a channel here. I see an ascending channel here. It's not perfect. We'll try to adjust it. I think it's enough of a channel, though, one could argue. It's enough of a channel. It's not a perfect channel, but it's enough of one. RSR, it's trying to make these moving averages into supports, which is good. Okay, some dojis down here coming up off the channel. Beware of ascending channels. People do call those bear flags for a reason. Let's take a look at our golden ratio fib. I will correct that top that I didn't quite hit perfectly. There we go. All right. So it is getting back above there. That's going to bother me until I fix it. There we go. It is trying to retake the moving averages and the 382. If it's able to hold up here on the 382, cool. But yeah, I do worry about ascending channels. You know, unless it just keeps climbing, eventually pops off. But that 0.5, that's going to be critical resistance at 1.4 cents. I would be watching out for that. Yeah. I mean, also, we have to consider this. Could it be forming a massive head and shoulders and then dropping back down? So, yeah, there's just some things that give me pause here. But if it's able to take this 382 and the 50 week and just hang out here at around a ninth of a penny, then I would feel better about it. But after this move up, it's still a little hesitant, to be honest. Let's take a look at MSTR. I keep forgetting to look at MSTR. MicroStrategy. How is MicroStrategy doing? So from its recent top, now you see we have a low to the high fib, and it almost came down to the 236. Almost. We got a 236 correction from March till August with MicroStrategy and Bitcoin, okay, of last year. We didn't hit the 236 this time around. The 236 this time around for Bitcoin is 69K. To me, that's the number you don't want to see Bitcoin getting underneath. That double bottom area in the mid 70Ks, but especially 69K. So we have some nice bounces off this 50-week moving average. And I kind of compare this to, we looked at Palantir earlier, kind of feeling similar vibes to Palantir, where, you know, what's it going to do here? Is it going to get a double top? Or are we going to blow through it and start getting euphoric within this year? So, like Bitcoin, we have these big moves up, and then we chop sideways for half a year. Big move up, chop sideways, 4 to 6 months. Big move up. Where would the next big move up take us? Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's draw some fibs here from this high in 2020 to those lows. Oh my God, look at how perfect. I know we've talked about this before, but look how perfect it tagged that 1618. People are ready to sell right at that 1618 at 540, so you want to retake that 1618. Let's take our fib off log scale because that's going to change. I mean, there it hit that 4618. Hit that 4618. So I do think it still has potential. Did it hit the 4618? No. That was the 4236 to 4618 when we take it off log scale. But yeah, coming down to its 50s. If it gets above this, you know, add on all the extra fib levels you want. That's what I'd be watching for. All right. Any new comments? Let me go to my phone here. Hope you all have a great weekend, by the way. I am so happy it's Friday. Got good weather where I'm at. And yeah, we went over miners. Did we go over all the altcoins we wanted to? Let's go over a couple like XRP. I know someone requested Cardano. Sorry, I skipped over that one before. We'll go over Cardano. XRP. Okay. Had a nice bounce off that 888 and the 50-week moving average. I have a friend who talked about buying XRP recently, and I was telling him to temper his expectations. I know people are saying XRP to $100. I don't see it. The market cap makes no sense. That 2618 at around $5 is what I'd be watching for. You know, the 1618 here at $3, that's a great area to take profits. If you were in XRP all this time and you got a 5-6x, How can you not be happy with that, especially when it's a top 10 altcoin? How greedy do you have to be? It's already at $130 billion. So you're talking about this getting the 5x, you're talking about XRP being around 300 billion. Look at other stocks that are 300 billion. I would definitely consider taking profits in this area. I think it'd be stupid not to. But if you want XRP to go to $100, you can wait the rest of your life for that. Be my guess. Cardano. Cardano came down to that 382 in our macro high to low fib. Couple buy signals. And yeah, just had a nice little buy signal here. So don't hate Cardano here. Has that 100-week moving average support, which is really nice. And, you know, it kind of lost the 50-week moving average for a week and then's gotten back above. So we want to see it closing above. Otherwise, you know, here we do have that double bottom, which is nice for Cardano. But yeah, we don't want to see this keep chopping down and get to, you know, it could make a flag pattern, come down to the 200 one more time, set a buy order somewhere around 54, 55 cents, and then shoot up. That is possible. I do worry about, Jasmine, for example, it almost reminds me of Jasmine. Look at what happened after it took the 382. So it made that flag pattern, shot up to the next fib, and then it's just been dying. Now, Jasmine, oh my God, look at that giant weekly doji it had between the 382 and the 236. Climbing back up, I would not be surprised. I think there's a lot small term that has me feeling like a correction is coming. That'll be a little unexpected. We'll get that double bottom and go up. It might not happen, you know, all because I feel it's going to happen. Doesn't mean it's going to. But that's sort of what I'm watching for. So, SWI, we did not talk about SWI. We need to talk about Solana too. Let's talk about SWI. So, SUI, it got up almost to that 1618, but you know, I will caution you. I think so I've heard people say like SWI is the next Solana. So when we have our next major bear market recession, SWI could be the next Solana. I do think there's possibilities with that. But right now, buying SWI, you're buying it at a premium. I would not be buying it unless you're kind of holding long term or hoping that this does. Here, let's go over to the market cap here. So SWI, number 11 altcoin, you know, could it get to 100 billion this cycle? Do a 10x? Sure. But after this big move up, so it's had two big moves up, and from that low we had, and here is probably at the 888, if I had to guess. Let's turn that down. Let's add on our 0.888. I think that's where it came down to. If we are to, okay, we're on log scale. Cool. Came down to the 888, came back up. All right. But as you saw before, as we measured from the slowdown here, we don't even have to be perfect. It moved up 1,000%. So I struggle with buying after big moves like that. If you didn't buy earlier, you know, 500% if you consider where it's at now. But if you believe, and other people have been talking about it, if you believe like others do that SWI can be the next Solana, then yeah, I think it has some possibilities. But, you know, right now it's just at a big move. I don't like buying after altcoins have big moves like this. Here was the time to buy SWI, okay, when we were getting those, when we were hitting those moving averages on the daily. Okay, we have a buy signal. We're still within range of that. But, God, what a big move up. These were the times to be buying SWI. But I do struggle with buying it after it just popped up 60%, 70% in a blip. I think that makes it very tricky. And so if it comes back down to the moving averages and you have to have SWI, you know, set a buy order somewhere around 290 or lower, get yourself a little bit of a discount if it returns. And that way, from that recent low, instead of buying, you know, all the way up here at the top, maybe you get somewhere here. That's sort of how I'm looking at it. It's a hold or a sell for you. I bought close to $2. Um, for me, I believe SWE is a hold. I believe SWE is a hold. That Solana potential, is it the next Solana, next cycle? That is too juicy to ignore. If I had some SWE that I got at $2, and good on you for getting it at $2, okay, in this area, good on you for doing that. I would, me personally, not telling you what to do, I would be holding on. But you made 75% off your $2 buy. Is that good enough for you? How much did you invest? So, if you believe in the long term potential, I do think it's okay to hold this one. And it almost looks like a massive channel. Not quite, but yeah. Let's take a look at our fib targets. I mean, it hit that 2618. I do worry about if it's going to make a lower high and then chop down lower if we were to like create a descending channel. Again, that fits my narrative of one more flush or pullback before going up. But here be some targets to watch. And, we can blow these fib targets out of the water. And I've shown you in this video how to add on fib targets. So I think you have to go back to the market cap. What market cap makes sense for you this cycle? 50 billion, 80 billion, 100? What are you looking for personally? But I do think, there's, from what I'm starting to read, and I haven't done enough research yet, if SWE is the next Solana, then how could it not be a hold, in my opinion? Let me scroll up in the comments, make sure I got everybody's requests. Okay, we finally got to ADA. We did Ondo. Wanted to take a look at Solana, and then we'll close it up there unless we get any other comments. So Solana, I still think Solana can really go. The most bullish targets I've seen outside of the stupid ones that you see out there, but I've seen a lot of people saying, what if Ethereum got to 11K, can Solana get to 1K? And that is a fib level out there. So this is Solana on a normal fib from the recent high to low. You can see here that it came down to, at 786, got a little lower. Let's draw a fib within a fib. We'll do from the high to, where would that take us? Well, we have to take that fib, put it on log scale. Let's see where this matches up. All right. Yeah, it kind of matches up right there. If we draw from this low, not this one, but from that high to this low, then yeah, people were buying there at 100. And it's probably, I think the fib within a fib is convenient. 100 is just a good psychological level too. Nice solid round number. Got through that 50-day moving average, but now it's battling the 100-day, which is good. But yeah, Solana, I do see big potential for Solana this cycle. I saw one of these pie charts ever since 2017, how it showed how the percent of altcoins change over time since 2017 and which altcoins are taking up bigger pieces of the pie. In this cycle, the one altcoin that has been eating up a larger percent of the pie as time's gone on has been Solana. And so, here's those max fibs. Could Solana get to the 3618, 4236 and hit 1,000? That's what some people are looking for. So, could Solana do a 10x from that 100, get to 1,000? Peak alt season? Sure, why not? Solana dash, not dot Bitcoin. Let's take a look. And by the way, y'all should be doing this for any altcoin when you can. Just taking a look at how is its pairing against Bitcoin. And when you do this and you set your fibs, you can see where some of the targets are. So there it got to the 0.5, okay, of that fib. Again, we're ignoring this because it's such a small percent of what Bitcoin is. But, where would some of these levels line up for Solana against Bitcoin? Could it get to the 786? When we do get alt season and Solana starts to run, I think these are the levels to watch for over here. So that's my 2 cents on Solana. Hope that makes sense, by the way. We would also see total 3. I mean, this is just very straightforward. When total 3 starts to break its former all-time high, that is when we've gone up into alt season. Last cycle, it got between the 2618, 3618. It stopped right there at the 2618. This cycle, it almost was breaking above. Still bullish, still above that 50-week moving average. But, I mean, this is why I think that could be, we are within just recent range of a possible low. Should the market be like 1998? Should we get a nice bounce here, continue higher? Total 3 is showing us that it's prepared to do so. But going back to what I talked about at the very beginning, if we are not going to see this sort of average market return that we've seen after elections, there's all those new policies. It's getting priced in. Okay. It's in the news. It's in the price. All that negativity is getting priced in. And if we're not going to see a continuation up, and instead we're going to see another big breakdown. So this is what I'm looking for on the S&P, to be very clear. The S&P on the weekly. If we are, I'm expecting a rejection sometime soon, or a pullback, I should say. If we are to break under that 100-week moving average and even get lower than this, I think that's where we break down and go towards a recession. But if we, even with a pullback, hold that 100 and start moving higher, then I think 1998 2.0 is back in play. So that is sort of my base case. All right, I don't see any new comments. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of the community and conversation. Love all your comments. Love having y'all here for the live stream. So thank you again. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Got my first check from Google, from YouTube, because of all you guys. So thank you for watching the videos, liking, subscribing, commenting. All that is awesome. All right. And so this has just been sort of a fun side hobby for me and something I wanted to do because there's a lot of, some of the teenagers I help as a psychologist, and some of the teenagers, as they like to say, there's a lot of cooked people with brain rot out there. There is a lot of that and a lot of nonsense. I wanted to start a channel where we just talk with some common sense and realism. And I love that there are people like you guys out there who are okay with that and not just looking for embellishment and sensationalism. So I like how we can have regular conversations here and it's not a toxic place. So chips and salsa, great having you here once again. You have a great weekend as well, brother. I'm going to be grilling or smoking, I should say, on the Traeger. So I'm excited about that. And drinking some Moscow mules today a little bit later. So looking forward to that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for everything. And I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Take care.